All right, how do you know if your student is on track? That's a question we get all the time. And usually it's couched with some information about my friends are doing or their friends are doing this. So, what does on track mean? How do we think about that? First and foremost, if you're asking that question, that means you're normal. I could say you're a good parent, but who am I to judge for that? We're trying to uh, guide our students to a point. And sometimes that point is a little fuzzy and not defined, but we want them to grow, we want them to mature, we want them to be able to accomplish all the things that God's given them to accomplish. So we should be asking that question in education at all levels, at the university level. We are always asking, are people on track? We're always evaluating, always doing that. So it's a great question to ask. But by asking it, you are doing a great job. I think that's the first thing. It's not a guilty thing to be asking that. It's not you're not behind because you're asking that. You are doing what anybody would do on any job that they have to do. Am I doing the right thing? Is this working? So that's great. That's great that you're asking. So let's talk about what on track actually means, at least from our perspective here. It means your student is learning consistently, right? They're growing. And you can see that because look back 6 months and the things they now know those things. They now know how to do those things. They've accomplished certain things. Growth, it's like working out in the gym or playing a musical instrument or anything. It can look painfully slow until you look at it over a period of time. Growth is measured over a period of time. The time is not one day or one week, but it's easy to lose sight of that. So, are they learning consistently? Not only have they grown in the last 6 months, but is it consistent? Are you moving forward consistently? That's kind of the progress that we're looking for. Are you progressing in core subjects? And this is one that you really have to think through. What are the core subjects? I'm going to tell you what they look like from the university. Mathematics, basic English literature, and some basic science. There's all your other stuff, they don't care. Just don't care. They However, that may not be the right answer to you. What is the core subjects that you need to be doing for the goals? Um, so you have to be thinking about what's the goals, what's the possible outcomes, and looking at possible outcomes, not just I want to be a dentist when I grow up, and those things change, right? Our kids change and changes drastically what they may decide to be doing. So you kind of have to prepare for some kind of baseline. College for many of you will be the baseline, but whatever that is, what are the core subjects? So again, mathematics, some basic English literature, and sciences, usually up to biology, is what they look for in the university system. So when we say mathematics, we say some basic knowledge of algebra. So that's kind of your baseline, and progressing above those is of course makes you stronger. Developing skills for where they're going next. That is the third one, and this is the one that sometimes gets lost in the academics. Those skills for what's next, whether it's college, whether it's trade school, whether it's military, whether it's work, whether it's life, or some combination thereof. And let's be realistic, for many, it's going to be a combination. These days, many people are going to work and maybe even an entrepreneurial type venture of their own or with a family member, and maybe later going back to college, closing at I mean, a slower pace, maybe not going at all. But what are the skills that they need to do those? So time management shows up as a huge skill. In the university, it's one of the deal killers. It's one of the things that runs students out of the university. Money management is, another one that runs people out of the university that has nothing to do with grades. Neither one of those directly impact grades, well, but they certainly indirectly do. Or, um, yeah, they certainly indirectly do. So, what are those skills? What are the th kind of things that they need to learn? We might call these life skills, right? We can lose sight in academics and get so busy in academics that they can't walk around and chew gum as the thing you often hear. So, but here's the thing. In defining what on track means, it's so easy for us to look at friends that are in public school X or private school Y, or even in another homeschool setting, and the things that they are doing. And of course, parents might oversell where their kids are sometimes. We hear parents talk about what their kids know. I know you've never experienced this, but maybe parents talking about what their kids know, and then you talk to the kids and they really don't know anything about that, right? That happens, right? So we as parents might oversell what our kids are learning and their abilities. Um, but that's theirs. That's what they need to do. That's one of the wonders of homeschooling, right? You get to choose the direction. And there's always a lot of doubt with homeschoolers. But you know what? If you go into the public and private school system, there is a lot of doubt there. Teachers and administrators are constantly questioning the same thing that you're asking at home. So it's a great question to ask. But just recognize peer pressure is what it is. And keeping up with the Joneses is true in academics as well as in financial rewards. So everybody's not on the same schedule, and you have to stop every now and then and evaluate where are we going, what's the right things, what kind of adjustments do I make to make this happen and make this happen well. Because your student on track, you first have to define the track, right? And so often we are talking to a track that is undefined and it's fuzzy and it's meaningless. So think about what that means to you, and it will change, right? That does change all the time. Even in the university, we see, people come in, they start in degree X, they move over to degree Y, and why am I talking about this in X and Y? But in algebra terms, I don't know, but you know what I mean. We are going, they change, and they many times they change drastically. Many times they drop out and decide not to do it at all. Um, you're just constantly evaluating, constantly changing. And as parents, leaders, teachers, that's part of what we're teaching them. That's just life. We're constantly changing, right? God gives us new plans sometimes, and we're adapting to, where He's leading us. And it's oftentimes not where we thought we were being led, right? So think about just what it looks like to mean on track right now, or to be on track right now, and then evaluate accordingly. Um, but if you just kind of want to say, okay, I'm just looking at raw academics, I'm looking at maybe college, there's a couple of things that we could do. And so I'm just going to step aside and say, I'm looking at a college life setting here. Um, Number one, use a scope and sequence. So, like in mathematics, there's a scope and sequence and we will be happy. We'll put on this link the scope and sequence. But generally it's algebra. At the high school level, it's algebra, it's geometry, algebra 2 and trig, sometimes called pre-calculus, sometimes broken up into algebra and then trig. It's broken up in different ways, but basically it's a pre-calculus set of requirements and then calculus. Many students never make to that last level in college or in high school. Um, maybe they don't make it past algebra. Maybe that's not part of their plan. But understand the scope and sequence of where they would be going if they were progressing, in all the subjects. What would that look like? And generally, this is a reference, not a rule book, right? If you're going into engineering, going down a certain mathematics path is going to be much better for you in the long run. If you're going into if you're not going to college or if you're going to some liberal arts curriculum and you know that for sure, then that that cuts off much faster the scope and sequence. So it's a rule, and you kind of get some judgment in it, but it takes the human judgment of a parent and student together. Number two, so look at the scope and sequences for the various different disciplines. So you got literature, you got science, and you got mathematics if you're heading towards a college. Um, but number two, to be more concrete, is to look at the college, university, and I'm gonna say because we're not really big pushers of college, but unless it's a great fit for you, look at the college and or career requirements. Many careers might have some of kind of other training, on the job training, being an entrepreneur, whatever the case is, what are the requirements? What are the things you need to know? If it's college, it's usually a little more laid out. If you want to be a welder, it's probably relatively, or some kind of trade that you have to have certain documented skills. It's probably fairly well laid out for you to find those things out. Business, entrepreneurship, some other things, they're a little fuzzier, but you can get a good guide from talking to people who do those things professionally that may or may not require any university or formal higher education. So look at those things. Again, college, we lay it out pretty well. You want to go to University of, Texas and get a degree in, accounting, then it's pretty clear what you need to do to get in the door and the kind of path that you're going to go down. And you should be looking at that if that is either the plan or a possible plan. And then you know whether you're on track, right? So the third thing here about ways to know you're on track is just assess skills more than content. And this is a tricky one because we even as parents are driven to let's complete this book, let's complete this course, let's complete it, check marks. I want to complete things, but assess the skills. Can your student write clearly? Can they write some sentences and you understand what they're saying? Can they write an email? Can they write a text message? Besides all the emoticons, can they write all the text message and make clear sentences? Maybe even with emoticons. Can they think logically through problems? Can they solve real problems? Forget the things in math in the sense of writing them down. Can they apply that stuff? Can they solve real world problems and think through some issues? Those are the kind of real assessments that we would have. Can they read some books? Um, can they do basic math at the grocery store? The things that they need just to apply the skills that they've and I mean things that they have done to apply the skills that they have. So can they do it? Assess the skills more than the content. And boy, that's a big deal when we see it in the university. Many people have checked off the boxes that they've done certain courses, but they don't know the material. Mathematics is number one on my list on that. So skills matter more than the chapters in the book. But here's the great thing. You have a lot of flexibility. You're in charge here. Your students have the ability to input to how their plan works out together. So knowing whether they're on track or not is just really a constant adjustment. Where are we going? What's changed? Where are we falling behind? Where are we way ahead? And just constantly adjusting. Because that's how life is, right? That is a life skill right there by itself. So thanks for hearing from us. We'll be back with you next time.